We're going live. All right. Hello, everybody. So no ad reads, right?
No
Now
ad
that
reads,
Novig,
just promote the socials, whatever.
now that Novig is illegal in Florida, New York.
It could be soon. You never know.
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't. So our politicians are screwing over this network. Making Novig illegal. I don't know why Novig would be illegal and DraftKings would be legal. Look, I'm in favor of everything, all the gambling being legal, but it makes a lot less sense for something like Novig to be illegal and for DraftKings to be legal. What could be the justification for
that? So Callan and I came on and did a half an hour, actually 40-minute stream at 3 p.m. because I had to explain all this nonsense to everybody because in case people didn't know, yes, Novig is gone. We had to sever that deal because strike one was California. That's where Callan is. And now we get an alert that it's now illegal in New York.
Wait, it's legal in New Jersey, right?
I'm going to tell you in a second. I have the map in front of me.
Is the reasoning that, let me ask you a question though. Is the reasoning that we're cutting ties with them because it's illegal in New York and so much of this network lives in the state of New York? Is that the reason why?
No. So what ended up happening was our brilliant governor in New York decided to get a bill passed through and decided, let's make this new bill that bans all prediction markets.
Why?
Because they call it illegal gambling, is what she's calling it. So,
well, it's only illegal because they said it was illegal.
Correct. So it was funny. It was all over social media, and people were saying, "Wait a minute, New York's giving up millions in tax dollars to get rid of prediction markets." Like,
yeah.
And DraftKings and FanDuel we're in the process of making their own. So I don't think they're doing that anymore because they know they're not going to be in New York and they're not going to be in California. So how does Novig survive? Because if they can't be in New York and they can't be in California, that's where most of the business and gambling takes place, right?
I mean, they're like population-wise, they've got to be two of some of the biggest states in the country.
And I left out, too, that they're illegal in Nevada, too. So,
I mean, not that matters that much because I don't think we have a lot of listeners or viewers in Nevada, but
I just mean generally. Yeah,
that is a little crazy that Nevada of all places. I mean, I'm pretty sure prostitution is legal in Nevada, isn't it? Or at least in Las Vegas.
Certain places of Nevada.
I mean, yes. Las Vegas, everything is legal, but Novig isn't. You can't do a prediction market.
Oh, Callan just said it too. California, Nevada, and Arizona, wait, that's for what, Callan? That's for what Nick just said or what I said about the non-legal states. That might be the prostitution thing. I don't know.
No, I don't think he's talking about prostitution.
I don't know.
I don't think, to be honest, I don't think he would really know that off the top.
Oh, my point. You're talking about the non-legal states.
Okay. Yeah.
I was going to say that makes more sense. Long story short, I get an alert at 3 a.m. that they turned off the legal access to Novig. And that was basically strike 2 and strike 3 at this point. Because if we're not in New York, I can't use it. And some of us can't use it.
I can use it because I'm in New Jersey. Liam can't use it. He's in New York.
Yeah. Where is he? He's in the city? Or?
Yeah. So he can't use it in New York. So a whole lot of people on this network can't use it. I suppose it wouldn't matter if we promoted it, even if we can't use it ourselves.
Yeah, but we severed because we can't.
It's not because most of our listeners have got to be in New York or California. We probably have some in New Jersey too. I don't know what the demographics are exactly, but it's got to be some. We've got to have so many in New York. I would venture to guess that that's the most that we have. Is it legal? Is it illegal in Florida too?
I'm looking right now. Currently, looks like 35 states. Let's see. Of course, they're going to make me go on the Novig site to find it. I think it was legal in Florida last time I checked. Oh, here. Okay. It is legal in Florida.
It is interesting because Florida has... so this goes to show you how stupid gambling laws are. In Florida...
This is the card thing you told me about, right?
The card. So gambling has to be card based because that makes some type of a difference. All gambling in Florida has to be card based, but prediction markets are totally legal. In New York, gambling is fully legal. Sports gambling is legal, but prediction markets are illegal. I don't know what could be the justification for any of
So
it.
I could give you one reason, and this is how they got around originally being in all 50 states. These prediction markets, like I don't know if you ever heard of Profit X. That's another prediction market
I've heard of
company.
Project X, not Profit X.
So Profit X actually followed us on social media,
Oh,
actually.
really?
And I had reached out to them originally, and then I realized, okay, well, they just banned all. It wasn't just Novik, by the way. They banned all prediction markets from New York.
That is so obviously. This is so obviously corruption. It's so obviously cronyism. Obviously, it was the big casinos that were probably bribing them.
Oh, it's DraftKings and FanDuel. I could tell you that.
Right. It's DraftKings and FanDuel that are bribing these politicians.
How is that not a monopoly?
Right. I mean, look, I'm not a big believer in like the whole. I think that the monopoly thing is often overstated because
not in this case.
But in this case, it's not so much the monopoly thing; it's that they're bribing politicians to shut down the little guy. That's basically what they're doing in this case.
I don't know if you remember this slightly, but when Barstool was with Penn Gaming, and they tried to get a license in New York, and basically, I think part of it had to do with Dave being in charge of the company, and they didn't want that liability with a license, which is kind of stupid if you ask me. But I think the other thing is that there's very few licenses they can give out for gambling companies. I think there's between 6 to 8 licenses that they're allowed in every state for companies.
Yeah,
and they were trying to get, what was it, the Barstool Sportsbook at the time they were trying to get by. It was a complete failure, and they tried to go with ESPN. That was a complete failure. ESPN just went to DraftKings or back to DraftKings.
Yeah.
So I don't know. These prediction markets, the reason that they were such a commodity is because they called them the sweepstakes model, meaning that you're not legally putting down bets, even though you're using real money. You're taking money and turning it into virtual currency. And that was their way around getting a license in every state, because it wasn't a bet technically you were making. It was just a virtual currency that you were using to technically make a bet. I got in trouble in the first week we were using it because when I was doing all the read stuff, I said, put $5 on the app, get $50 in bonus bets, because that's what most of the promotions say in their app. If you make a $5 bet, like DraftKings, I think it's if you make a $5 bet, you get $200 in bonus bets or whatever they say in all the commercials that they put out. So I get an angry letter from Novik, no joke, the people, and they tell me you can't use the word bets.
Ridiculous.
And I'm like, bet? What do you want me to use?
That's literally what it is.
So you want to know the word they told me to use? They said plays.
Scusat.
And I'm like, plays? I'm like, when have you ever heard someone say, oh, I'm going to take this play?
But that's all. In Novik's defense, it's like a legal liability. They don't want it to be bets. They're going around calling it bets, but literally, Novik really is betting.
It is betting. Of course it is.
Like, just because you're using Novik points or coins doesn't mean you're not actually placing bets.
Right. And I got into an argument with them, and that's why we had to sever ties, whatever.
My only issue, and I feel comfortable saying this now that we've severed ties with Novik.
Yeah.
My one issue is that, especially for unnecessary wagers, and we were using Novik odds. The only time we didn't use Novik odds was when I wanted to make a bet that wasn't available on Novik, so I would do
correct.
But generally, we use Novik odds, and the thing that drove me and Liam crazy is that the odds were out of control.
Yes,
first of all, they would
way.
fluctuate drastically within like 24 hours.
Yes,
so I might
true.
pick a team plus 3.5. The next day they're plus 2.5.
Yes.
Well, that changes my entire bet. I have to change my entire bet if it's 3.5 or 2.5.
Correct.
The other thing is the odds are completely uneven. So you would see so you could pick one side or the other side. But once it's not
you
like
plus odds sometimes on a.
Oh, no, but like one side would be like plus 120, the other side would be like minus 140 or something like that.
And it didn't make sense. It didn't make sense.
Those aren't even odds. Like it doesn't have to be like it should at very most be maybe plus 120 and plus 100, something like that.
Let me ask you something, because I found this odd too on the app, and you would know this better than me. Is the favored teams on the Novik app I saw a bunch of them getting plus odds. Is that
Yeah,
weird?
I did notice that. So yeah, it's a little weird, but they were probably only favored by like 1.5 points. Like they effectively weren't really that favored.
But is that odd? Like on a
It is a
normal.
little weird. So the odds on Novig really didn't make a lot of sense, and I think the reason for it is that it's just a product of them being a smaller app, a smaller company, and fewer people making bets. So more people. What I'm guessing is the reason that happened is because a lot of people bet on one side or the other, so they had
Correct.
to adjust it. So that's
Yeah.
probably what happened. Whereas with DraftKings, it's not an issue. It's kind of like how with really small games, like say a MAC game or something like that in the regular season, if somebody bets an insane amount of money on one side of that game, it drastically affects the odds.
Well, yeah, because you're reflecting on a massive bet.
Right,
Yeah.
and that's on DraftKings because hardly anybody's betting on that game. But in the games that we're picking on an app like DraftKings, that's a non-issue because there's enough people betting a lot of money on both sides.
Well, it also makes me wonder because remember in all of the stuff we used to read for Novik, like they would say, "Oh, there's no house edge." Like they're not because you've heard the term no vig, right?
Yeah.
So that's an actual terminology where if companies are pulling a vig, that means they're pulling out their share, and that's how they make money off
Right.
all bets. Chicago's having that issue now. I don't know if you saw that, where you now get charged like 25 cents on top of every bet you make in Chicago.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, the way it works, is that I don't know. In some states, they're taxing winnings, which
Yeah.
is fucking ridiculous. Taxing winnings, like
Actually, I think it's the opposite. You can't, and this might be a federal law. I can't remember, but you can't take losses anymore as tax deferment.
right, which I think is look. If you're going to tax winnings, I can understand that a little bit, but not if
gotta
you're
do
also
both.
going to tax winnings.
You got to do both. If you're gonna tax someone's winnings, then people have to be able to put it on their taxes to take it as a loss.
Right. It's completely ridiculous because you're risking money and then getting less back. First of all, you're already getting less back because otherwise gambling would not be profitable. So that's why it's
Oh god,
minus
gambling
110.
companies would be in the cellar.
Right, like you have to bet 11. A standard bet is you have to bet $11 to win $10.
Correct. Yeah.
And now with the taxes coming in, it's even less than that. So, and this to me seems a little bit like a sin tax type of thing.
Of course.
The justification. It's like taxing. It's like how in New York they tax cigarettes an insane amount.
Oh god,
because they want people to not because they want
alcohol too. Yeah.
right. They want to stop people from smoking. So there's like taxes are taxed in taxed cigarettes are taxed a ridiculous amount to stop people from smoking.
Oh, Callan made a really good point, and we were talking about this before. Can either of you make this make sense to me? How the hell could DMart's MLB team owner score a casino being built near Citi Field while New York tries to shut down a platform like Novig? Hypothetical much.
I mean, I think he meant to say hypocritical.
I mean, hypocritical. Yeah.
Man, that California education.
He's kidding.
Sorry, I had to. Well, yes, it is hypocritical. It obviously is just because of the fact that Steve Cohen has a lot of money and is working with Hard Rock. Like that's ultimately the reason.
It
why.
is a little bit hypocritical, though.
Well, it's very hypocritical because I'm not saying either of those things should be shut down, but I will say this. There's far more justification to shut down Steve Cohen's casino right next to Citi Field than there is to shut down Novig.
Oh no, I agree with you 1,000.
Because, forget the fact that it's near, and I'm not saying either should be shut down, but just the fact that it's near Citi Field and the fact that that's an insanely congested area and traffic is going to be out of control.
It's going to be worse.
It's going to affect way more people than Novig. I mean, the truth is, gambling in general, and I love going to sports books like in Vegas and Atlantic City, but it's a lot better if sports gambling is on apps.
I agree.
It's better if people do all their, and I'm not saying shut down casinos or anything like that. I love going to casinos, but it's just better if people gamble all on their phone because you don't have to worry about traffic congestion, for instance.
Or violence.
Right. Like it's way less. Right. Violence too. Like there is a certain level of risk if you win a ridiculous amount of money in a casino. And, there have been people in Atlantic City who have been killed who have won a lot of money.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
I mean, people get killed in Atlantic City a lot. It's freaking dangerous over there. But like there is like that is certainly an issue with people going to casinos rather than betting on their apps. But like it just I think all of this goes to show you that gambling laws are all stupid. Like they don't make any logical sense for why some things are illegal and other things aren't.
Right. And yeah, like Callan said, because in California they only have Underdog and Prize Picks because those are not technically those are not like gambling apps. They're like over under type things that are what makes them legal. But yeah, he was saying Underdog, Prize Picks, horse racing, tribal gaming equals California betting, which is true because they only have.
Want to hear something funny? Is that one time years ago, I went to Mohegan in Connecticut.
Yeah,
and I've been there many times.
Me too.
But this was back before sports betting was legal.
Oh man, okay.
And I went on a college football Saturday, and I actually thought they would have a sports book. I maybe should have Googled this. It was actually the day that LSU killed Georgia.
Yeah. Okay.
In 2018.
Yeah.
I'd be stunned if you remembered that. And I thought there would be a sports book. Instead, they had a sports bar with like where they showed all the games, and I was like, "This is not the same thing." Now they have a nice sports book, and I really like it. Actually, they have a really nice sports book. I was there for the Kansas State Iowa State game. I really liked it.
Was it a sponsored book or is it just the normal?
I'm not sure. I don't think so. I could be wrong.
It wasn't like a DraftKings book or something, was it?
No.
Okay.
But the point is, when I was there, they had a race book, but they didn't have a sports book.
Oh, a horse
it was legal to bet on horses.
Oh God,
but
it's
you
insane.
Bet on football.
Yeah, wait a minute. It's insane because now, like, since you were talking about apps, DraftKings has DK horse racing, I think they call it, or it's a separate thing built into the bigger app.
Right.
Where and like they're doing like hundreds of thousands of giveaways, like because I guess they're desperate to get people like onto their horse racing app. So like they're saying, "Oh, make a $10 bet over here, and we'll give you $100 to bet on the horse racing app." And I'm like, I don't know anything about horse racing. Like,
I don't either. I don't get the hype. Oh, I don't get the horse racing hype.
You know who's huge into horse racing?
Like Francesa.
Well, yes, but Portnoy.
Oh, yes, he is.
He owns a couple of horses now.
Actually, you know who else is pretty big into horse racing is Jim Rome.
Well, that doesn't surprise me one bit.
Jim Rome is big into horse racing. I never got the horse racing because I don't know anything about horses. Like, I don't know. Like, I am only into sport, and horse racing is not really a sport. I don't know if that really counts, but I guess it is. I guess it counts as a sport. But I only like sports that I'm familiar with. I understand. I feel like I can understand different teams and different players and kind of have a logical like viewpoint of it. How am I going to feel about horses? Like, I don't know anything about these horses. They have weird names. That's all I know about horses. Like,
you'd be very surprised how much money is involved in owning these horses, by the way. Like when I watched Dave do a video and he said, I think he paid like close to $1 million for a horse. Like, and I'm assuming those are hybrid, or whatever they call them, thoroughbred horses, where like all they do is race for like 4 to 6 years, and then they get so blown out that eventually they have to be put down in euthanization because they've been horse racing for 6 years straight, and that's all they do. But there's a lot of money in horse racing. I didn't realize.
I feel bad for the horses.
Of course you do, and so do I. Like,
I always feel bad for animals, unless they taste really good, then I don't care. But
well, what was the guy's? Oh, Bob Baffert was the guy's name, the one who was doing like really horrible things to the horses, but he was like he was like the Bill Belichick of horse racing in a sense, where like he just
did he get like a really young girlfriend after that and ruin his reputation?
That's like he was missing, but like he was just like the Hall of Famer of horse racing, but he was doing like giving them PEDs and like doing all this weird shit. As Callan said, we do have a benchmarks episode on Baffert coming out on that, but
I've never heard of him. I don't think I've ever heard of him.
If you look him up, the
closest sports book to him is Tijuana, Mexico. That's funny.
Yeah.
So if you want to get some drugs in the process and bet on sports,
and it's true for the two birds with
one stone.
What was he saying?
Well, actually, Callan's not far. Is that true? I mean, Callan can't be that far from Vegas.
He's in San Diego.
That's not too far from Vegas, is it? Well, Tijuana, it's very close to Tijuana. By the way, what is it called? Because San Diego And I want him to answer this question for me because San Diego is a city that doesn't border itself. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah,
Like,
I kind of do.
there's
Yeah.
not continuous borders. Like, there's San Diego. It's like if you look at a map of San Diego, there's like two sides of it. Like, there's one side of San Diego and another side of San Diego, and they don't border each other. That makes no sense at all.
No,
I don't know what the deal is with that. I don't know what they call it.
he would know that better than me. But long story short, just so we can get on to the other topics, is we're done with Novig. That's over. We didn't do anything wrong. They just they were deemed illegal in New York and California, and that's kind of a problem for us. So
Yeah, it's obviously going to be a problem. Those are two huge states, and you know what? We're getting screwed. Novig's getting screwed by a bunch of asshole politicians.
well,
That's
I'm
really
already talking to two other companies already to get us somewhere else, and I think those two companies will be better if I can get
Yeah.
one of them.
Although I'm afraid they might get banned too.
Well, no, these are two licensed ones.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm hoping one I like over the other because they actually do content. They're one of the gambling content networks. So I'm hoping that'll help us. But long story short, we'll figure that out. But yeah, no more Novik.
All right. No more Novik. All right. So what do you want to talk about first? The college football playoffs or Craig Carton?
Let's do the playoffs first because I can
Okay.
rant about Carden for.
So the college football playoffs are so Indiana Ohio State is going on right now. I have no idea what's going on with that game. I think it's probably still in the first quarter. As far
I'm putting
as I
it
know,
on right here. Yeah,
it's what?
I'm putting it on, so I'll check the score. If my
Yeah,
TV will work.
Indiana's up 3-0 first quarter. All right. In terms of the college football playoff controversy, which is what I want to talk about. Now, let me just up front give you my 12 teams. If it were up to me and I was picking the 12 teams,
Okay.
I would say, here's my rankings. Ohio State, number 1. Georgia, number 2. Indiana, number 3, I would probably do. Unless Indiana wins this game, in which case it'd be number 1. But I'm assuming that they're not going to win. I'm just saying, like, as of now, before this game, assuming, like, pretend this game didn't start. Texas Tech 4, Oregon 5, almost exactly what the rankings currently are. Then I'd probably put A&M 6, Ole Miss 7, Notre Dame 8, Oklahoma 9, Alabama 10, Miami 11, Texas 12, 13 BYU, 14 Vanderbilt, 15 maybe a team like, I don't know, Virginia, or I don't know. After 14, I don't really think of 15, I would put USC. And maybe I would even put USC ahead of Vanderbilt. But after 15, it really just doesn't matter.
Is it bad? I don't care after the 12 teams. I don't care.
No, but I think the first few teams out do matter a little.
Okay.
But yeah, that's fair.
I don't.
Now,
I don't. Okay, good.
it's not that much different than who the committee has in their top 12. Other than I'm putting Texas a little higher, and I'm not putting BYU in. Now, obviously, Miami is going to get screwed out of a playoff spot. That is going to happen. It's a little bit their fault, but we'll get into it. Miami's going to get screwed out of a playoff spot. Miami absolutely is a top 12 team. They deserve to be getting in. However, people are going to be, and by the way, a lot of the people advocating for the system that is keeping out Notre Dame, keeping out Miami, are going to be blaming this on Notre Dame getting in over them. And the way I see it is that I fully agree. It's not a popular opinion, but the committee is 100% correct, I think, to put Notre Dame ahead of Miami. The only issue that I have is the format that the committee created by having an automatic group of 5 team, by having automatic bids rather than just picking the top 12 teams. It should just be the top 12 teams. That's why the committee exists. That's why we have them.
What's the point of automatic bids if they're there to pick all the teams? I don't understand. Like, so you're going to put in 5 teams that don't deserve to be there, technically, right?
Well, yeah, but by the committee's own estimation. Because why do we even have the committee if we're not just going to have them rank the 12 teams. That's the whole point of the committee. Why do we even have them if they're not just going to do that and we're going to pick a team that's ranked 20th?
Did I hear correctly though? And I don't remember which game it was. One of the teams that was 7-5 that got into a title game,
You
and
think it was Duke?
no, I don't remember if it was Duke or something else. It was one of the title games that happened this past week, I think. But they used like the old-fashioned like computer system to determine a tiebreaker, like that they had. That I saw, and I was like, computer system. I was like, what is this? The BCS all over again? Like,
Well, no, it's not that. Duke it's all just mathematical tiebreakers like they have in the NFL with like, so that's why Duke got into the ACC
but
championship.
7-5 teams though.
It's a joke. Well, here, I think I've heard this float. My friend actually suggested this, that like maybe if there's a tiebreaker, it should be the highest ranked teams. And
That
that's
makes
how they
sense.
should do it.
That makes total sense.
I think that should be the first tiebreaker is if there's a multiple team tiebreaker outside of the head to head, that should be it should be top ranked teams, and Miami would be in playing against Virginia, and Miami would probably be winning.
Well, you can't always use head to head because some teams don't play each other. But
Right. But and also if there's like 4 teams and not chances are they don't all play each other, like you
it
can't
wouldn't
have
be a fair balance. Yeah.
So I think Miami is getting screwed out of a playoff spot, but not for the reason people say. It is weird to me that a lot of people who literally advocate for the type of system that is screwing over Miami are blaming Notre Dame for getting in over Miami. And the way I see it is that there is nothing wrong with a team that loses to another team to be ranked ahead of them. It's not the only time this year that it's happened. I mean, a really good example, by the way, the best example is Texas and Oklahoma. Oklahoma is ranked 5 spots ahead of Texas, in spite of the fact that Texas whooped them on a neutral field. Way more recently, by the way, than Miami beat Notre Dame by a field goal in Miami. That literally happened in August. It was less recent. It was by a much smaller margin. And it was in Miami. So if Texas can be ranked ahead, so if Oklahoma can be ranked ahead of Texas, why can't Notre Dame be ranked ahead of Miami? Because it's literally for the same exact reason.
I think you're kind of making my point or defense of my point that I brought up a couple weeks ago, which that this whole thing of good losses or bad wins or however you want to judge it is now being proven that we shouldn't be doing it this way. Like,
well, how else are you supposed to do it though? There's
records, man, records. Win your game.
No, but you can't just. Here's the problem with records though. Teams, first of all, conferences are uneven, so you can't judge records the same. You can't fairly judge a team that plays no ranked teams versus a team that plays 3 top 10 teams in a season.
Division or not division, conference right. Games.
Conferences are so uneven that it would never work. The other reason, which you talked about, is that teams control their own schedules.
Well, I'm saying take that away.
There's a bunch of reasons. There's like 8, 10, and 2 teams. How do you have a record system when you have like 8 different teams with the same record?
First of all, if you played conference all year, you wouldn't have 8, 10, and 2 teams. That just wouldn't happen because some teams are going to have to lose within their conference. And the way the numbers work out, they just would never be 10 and 2 all at the same time.
I mean, no, but you would have you're right. There wouldn't be 8, 10, and 2 teams. You'd probably have like 8, 9, and 3 teams or something like that. The system wouldn't be that much different, even if you only played within your conference.
If you played in conference, though, again, you wouldn't have to judge, oh, well, this loss is a good loss compared to this being a cheap win, like the Notre Dame win. What was it, last week, where they completely blew out who was it that they blew out last week? Yeah, it was a complete freaking blowout in the first half of the game. And
but all I'm saying though is under the current system of college football, that's the only way in college sports. That's the only way it really could work because there's too many teams and they play too few games. Think about this: like in the NFL, it's different. In the NFL, you have 32 teams,
which
every team's schedule is. Look, some teams play harder schedules than others. But every team's schedule is, at the end of the day, is fairly even.
They rank the NFL schedules based on how you finished the year before.
Right, exactly. So everybody's schedule is fairly even, and it's not drastically different. and everybody kind of plays each other. And you play 17 games in the NFL. In college, and it's a pool of 32 teams. College football is different. College football, you're in a pool with a minimum of 70 teams, and you play 12 games, if that, really, because 2 of those games, at least for most teams, are against like these nothing schools. So
I'm saying to stop that nonsense. Like take the scheduling away.
Even in that scenario, but let's just say they played 12 teams against all Power 5 teams, for instance, Power 4 teams. For instance, you're still in a pool with really effectively 70 to 75 teams because you have the Power 4 and Notre Dame, which is 68, plus the service academies, plus maybe a group of plus the group of 5 teams that potentially can get in. So you have anywhere from 70 to 75 teams. So you can't compare playing 12 games for each team in a pool of 70 to 75 teams as opposed to playing 17 games in a pool of 32 teams who all kind of play each other. Well, so it's completely it's just the scenarios are entirely different. Unless you wanted to play like 30 games or something like that in college football.
Well, that would never happen. But
which would be impossible to do.
No, but if you played if every conference played their conference until the CFP, then there would be no such thing as this is a good loss, this is a bad loss, this is a good win, this is a bad win.
But there still would be because the conference. So you're saying there should be 0 non-conference games?
Correct, because that would stop all the nonsense of, well, Notre Dame blew out this clown show school and you had other ones that lost to tougher opponents. That would remove that ridiculousness out of the equation.
So you would be eliminating Ohio State, Texas, that type of game the first week of the season, or Alabama, Florida State, or any sort of good non-conference game. I mean, there's a lot of good non-conference games that can happen early in the season.
I get it, but I think winning conference games is more important than winning non-conference games.
I agree. I mean, it does matter more. But here's the thing, though. Then you're eliminating all of any sort of interconference games that can be good games. The other reason it's a bad idea is because how do you evaluate the conferences if none of their teams even play each other? They might as well play in different leagues.
But this is the problem. And you just said something interesting, too, which is they shouldn't be evaluating teams. It should be, okay, they won. You really, to be honest, you really don't need a committee to do this whole conference system thing. It should be who wins, who lost, who loses, who wins. And it's like the NFL, you play your schedule. And if you win your schedule, then you win.
But the problem with the current system is that teams control their own schedule. But here's the other problem. Even if teams didn't control their own schedule and they only played within their conference, that would never work because the conferences in terms of scheduling are so uneven. That's the problem. So you would have an ACC team, for instance, that plays zero good teams. Then you have an SEC team that plays a gauntlet of a schedule. That team gets screwed. And then there's a team that is clearly not as good as another team just because they have a better record. That just doesn't work. In professional sports, it's different because every team plays each other.
But
so
wait,
you can do that in college football.
So, well, I'm just trying to think. So we're 5 conferences, right? So or 4. So if you really want to do it that way, have everyone play their conference, take 3 teams out of each. I guess depending on how you would include Notre Dame, because Notre Dame would make it most years. But if they don't, you would have 4 conferences with 3 teams coming out of each. And then once you get to the CFP, then you rank them.
I mean, the problem, but there's a big problem with that, though, which is that not every conference has the same number of teams that would be worthy of a playoff spot. If you were to do that, you would have to say, all right, we pick X amount we pick maybe 5 from the SEC and the Big 10. We pick 3 from the ACC and the Big 12. You would have to do it like that because the SEC and Big 10 are vastly more competitive or vastly better conferences than the ACC and the Big 12. I mean, the ACC this year has Miami and Virginia as their top team.
No,
it's a joke.
But I'm saying everything's got to be even. And first of all, that would make the competition even. I think that would ramp up the competition more, knowing that you were getting 3 from each conference.
Wait, when you say everything has to be even, you're saying that every conference should get the same exact number of teams in the playoffs?
Yeah.
But the competition, you won't even have that in professional sports. Every division doesn't even. That would be like saying every division needs to get the same number.
No, because like you said, in professional sports, everyone plays each other. In college, they don't. So I'm saying,
that proves my point. The point I'm making is that every division, like we might get 3 teams from the NFC West or the NFC North
no,
this year.
but look at the stories I saw over the last couple of days. People are pissed off at the SEC having 5 teams in the top.
But here's the problem. So you're saying that the SEC and ACC are so what would your system be? Would your system be that there should be 4 teams from each conference?
Well, there's 4 conferences, so 3 from each. Three would make it
3 from each conference. So you would say, so who would your 3? So you would take Miami, Virginia, and Duke, and also Georgia, Alabama, and Oklahoma, and then leave out Texas A&M and Ole Miss. Like, how that would even make sense?
You have to be the top 3 teams in each conference. And I think that would bring out even more competition. Also, that would lead to less guys sitting out at the end of the season.
Well, no, because that's usually an issue with bowl games.
No, but I'm saying if you're looking to make a CFP, then you're going to want guys to play.
Here's the problem, though. If you look at the SEC standings, this year, there's 3 different teams that are 7 and there's 4 teams. It's basically a 4-way tiebreaker of 7-1, and it's Alabama, it's Georgia. Alabama had the tiebreaker, I guess, but between there's 4 teams right now in the SEC that are 7-1.
Okay.
Which team? And you're picking 3 teams.
Yeah. Which
team would you leave out of those 4 teams?
Well, you would take the tiebreaker, like you said. Whatever the tiebreaker.
So you think it should be? So it would be. I don't even know what it is, because on the ESPN app it would be. On the ESPN app it shows Alabama at 4th. But that's not correct, because they wouldn't be in the SEC championship.
No, that's right. They can't be 4th because they're in the.
I guess it might be A&M, but then you'd be leaving out a team that's more worthy of a playoff spot than a team in another conference just because they play in a more difficult conference. It's not the same thing as professional sports where every team has fairly even division. I mean, some teams play in better divisions than others, but it's fairly even, and even in that case, some divisions get more teams than others. The NFC North and NFC West are probably going to get all the wild cards.
All right, but let me ask another question. In any other professional sport, where have you ever heard of something said, or any sport generally, forget if it's professional or college or whatever, where a loss can be good? Tell me where that term is used anywhere else.
Losses in college football are never good, but some losses are better than others.
But I'm saying, tell me where else that's used.
College basketball.
I think that's worse.
No, but it is, though, because they do the same thing in all college. I mean, I don't know anything about college baseball. I would assume they probably do.
I don't know either. But
there's a difference, though, which is that they're totally different animals. When you're talking about playing, like when you talk about professional sports, like in the NFL, all right, what if there were 75 teams in the NFL, every team played 12 games, and they only played games. Let's say, for the sake of argument, there were 70 teams in the NFL. We had 4 major conferences with 16 to 18 teams. There were the only games that actually counted in the standings were within their divisions. And they controlled a quarter of their own schedule. In that scenario, you have to rank losses. Like you can judge that all you want.
But you know how
they control their own schedule, but the committee didn't make that up. The committee's working with the system that they have. So even if you want to say that they should change that system, okay, fine. But the committee has to live within that system in the meantime.
First of all, I think the committee's effed up, but that's a whole different situation.
But the thing is, though, when teams control their own schedules and conferences are uneven, you have no choice but to rank wins and losses as better wins and better losses.
But think about the statement you're saying. Oh, well, they lost, but because it was such a tough loss, we'll let it slide.
Well, okay, here's the thing, because those types of scenarios don't exist in the NFL. I'll give you an example. Texas lost to Ohio State on the road the first week of the season. And the committee they lost 14-7. The committee is not punishing them for it. It really effectively doesn't matter that Texas lost that game. And I think that's good, because Texas scheduled that team. Otherwise, you're just telling teams, you're sending the message, instead of scheduling Ohio State, schedule Rice, and we will reward you for winning that game.
But I'm saying no.
That's the message that the committee would be sending in that scenario. That's why they have to say it. If NFL teams controlled their own schedules, it would be different. But in college football, it's a totally different animal. And even if teams didn't control their own schedules, it's the same exact scenario. The scheduling would be too uneven, even within conferences. Scheduling is too uneven.
Yeah,
to
but you could
not
say in
have
the
that
NFL.
system.
Oh, wait a minute. You could say in the NFL that certain divisions are much stronger than others. Like that.
Yes, but it's you're right. Some divisions are much stronger than others. That is true, but not to the degree that conferences in college sports are stronger than
Or
others.
go ask
Not
the
even
NBA.
close.
Go ask the NBA. For years, the Western Conference kicked the shit out of the Eastern Conference.
Yeah,
Years.
well, yeah, that's true. They also pick, but the NBA is different because they also pick. I mean, now effectively 10 teams get in, or at least 8 teams get in, but there's a play-in. So 10, 20 teams, most of the league has a chance to make the NBA playoffs. So
Yeah,
it's a little different.
but there's been rumors.
In the
but
NBA, though, let me be clear. In the NBA, I think it actually would make some sense to get rid of the conferences and just pick the best teams.
I
think
agree.
there's a good case for that.
I think the NBA should just take the top half and call it a day, whatever the top half teams are.
I'd be in favor of that because the West is so much better than the East, and the East has.
Do you remember for years when we were about 7-8 years ago when the Western Conference was just completely owning the Eastern Conference? And
I mean, the East became like a minor league.
And do you remember like teams that were like 9, 10, 11 would have been like 4 or 5 in the Eastern Conference, the way their records were going?
Right. Remember when the Brooklyn Nets made the playoffs 10 years ago?
Oh, they were way under 500.
Right. They were under 500. They actually took the Hawks to 6 games that year.
It was how bad they were.
I think they were the 8th seed because I remember the Hawks were the 1 seed. They were the 8th seed. If they were in the West, there is no way they would have been in the playoffs.
They would have been like 14 or 15.
At the time, they took 16. At the time, only 16 teams had a chance. It was a little bit more than half. So at the time, it would have made sense. But just going back to the point I'm making about college football, about losses not all being equal, it's like, yeah, losses are not all equal, largely even just as much as to say the sample size is so small. I mean, imagine if in the NFL you only played 8 games. It's like if you only played 8 games in the NFL, you're only letting in 7 teams, and the scheduling was so out of control like it is in college football. It's like you would have to have a ranking system. Like the standings don't work in college football. Only within conferences does that work. And even there, it doesn't even work because look at what's happening in the ACC.
Yeah, but let me ask you another example of this. So like the Chiefs in the NFL, which everyone says, oh, there's Chiefs bias, whatever. And imagine if they had a committee in the NFL. Would they treat the Chiefs the same way as like they treat Notre Dame this year, which had some pretty bad losses and they kept them in the top 10 all year?
Well, that's not true. Notre Dame doesn't have any bad losses.
I'm saying they've had 2 losses or 3 losses, whatever they have.
Well, here's the thing, though. I think that Chiefs. You're right. I'm not. Let me be clear. I'm not advocating for a committee in the NFL. I'm advocating for each system to use what works for them. So the NFL should have a standing system. I'm not saying there should be a ranking system in professional sports because there would be too much of a conflict of interest. Also, like I feel like with all the money involved,
of course,
and different franchises, like that really would be a problem.
That would be a disaster.
Whereas in college football, they effectively have to, and college basketball too, they have to. It's different in college sports.
Can I refer to a comment Cowan said over here too? Whatever you do, don't ask Marco Rubio or Ron DeSantis for their thoughts on the CFP format. Did you see the story?
No, what happened?
So Rubio commented because he was pissed off about Miami.
Oh, politicians getting involved again.
Cowan and I did this on Press Row earlier in the week, and Rubio came out and basically said if Miami didn't make the playoffs, he said the system format should be changed. And I'm like,
I mean, in fairness, that's not a whole lot different than what everybody else says. In fact, it's not even much different from what I said.
Yeah, but come on. Like, can we keep politicians out of this, please? Like,
yeah. I mean, my issue with politicians is that, first of all, they're obviously advocating for their localities' teams. So, of course, Marco Rubio is going to be saying that about Miami, just like how Rick Scott was saying 2 years ago,
Yes.
was talking about Florida State getting in. And I was just like, Rick Scott doesn't understand the college football playoff
Well,
format.
I'm still mad. I keep bringing this up to you, and I forget the year. The undefeated team. I told you had the injured quarterback. I keep forgetting who that was.
It was Florida State.
Oh, was that Florida State?
Yeah, that was exactly what it was.
I still think that's ridiculous, to be quite honest. They're an undefeated team.
I don't think it's ridiculous at all. My only criticism, actually, well, here's the point of the committee. The point of the committee is to evaluate who the best teams are. In that scenario, when Jordan Travis gets hurt, and I think they played 2 or 3 games, they were not good without their quarterback. In that scenario, I think it's totally fair to say, look, they're not the same team without their quarterback. They don't belong in the playoffs. They're not good enough to be in.
So you're basically telling me the committee is on recency bias, is what you're telling me.
Well, recency does matter a lot. It's not the only thing, but recency does matter. Actually, now, if you want to talk about recency, there are teams, when we had the 4-team playoff, there were teams that were left out of the top 4 that at that point in the season were good enough, were better than some of the teams that were in the playoffs. So I'll give you an example.
I just want to ask you one more question, then you can finish that, which is, when is it going to stop when they keep adding teams to the CFP? Because we're going to go from 12 to 16, and they're talking about 24. Like, we're turning this into March Madness, like where we're going to have a bracket at some point.
4 teams would be ridiculous. 16, I think 16 would actually be okay, because I think that a lot of seasons going forward will look like this one, where there are a lot of teams that have a legitimate argument.
But where does that stop teams from bitching that like they're the first team out? Like,
it never does. You could have 80 teams in, and it never stops.
So, and I think Kellen made a good point. I don't remember where it was, but he said, "Oh yeah, the system is flawed, and I'll continue to say that there's never going to be a picture-perfect system that will satisfy everyone." That's true. No. I agree.
I will say this, though. If I have to err on the side of teams having a system with too many teams or too little teams, I would rather err on the side of too many teams. So I'd rather err on the side of a system where it's more likely to allow teams that maybe shouldn't get into the playoff than a system that will leave teams out that are good enough to compete. In other words.
But what's next? We're gonna have March Madness like 150,000.
No, I'm not saying. I think there's a balance. I think there should be a balance, and I think maybe 16 teams would actually not be such a bad. From the way things are going this year, and if things continue like this, I think 16 teams would be fine, because I think 16 teams legitimately might have an argument to actually be playoff teams.
But you're going to end up at a point where some of those teams are just not even going to have a chance to win the national title. Like,
yeah. But this year, I think this year there's probably. I think this year I would argue. I mean, there's teams in the 12 team I really don't think have much of a chance to win the national championship.
One thing
the same thing is true in professional sports too. I mean, how many basketball teams?
Oh God,
don't have a chance to win the NBA finals that end up making the playoffs.
Usually,
I would have argued that the Knicks had no shot at winning the NBA finals, and they were in the Eastern Conference Finals. So I really just don't view it that way exactly, because there's a lot. That's always the case. Here's the thing, though. I don't think Vanderbilt could win it all. However, I do think Vanderbilt and USC, for instance, and even Virginia, if they win this game, at least have good enough cases to have a chance to compete. And that's the point I'm making.
Well, it's funny you bring that up, because I was going to ask you about Ole Miss, because there was a lot of commentary going on around Ole Miss since Lane Kiffin was going around, and my blood almost boiled over the fact that they were going to penalize Ole Miss for Lane Kiffin leaving.
Which luckily they didn't.
I swear, if that had happened, that would have been
a little absurd.
Because the team is the team, regardless if Lane Kiffin is there or not. I think it's not like they dropped 3 players and they went in the transfer portal and went to another team, for crying out loud. And they were talking about, and I don't understand this, they were going to penalize them like 4 divisional points or whatever they called it, which I didn't understand. Do you know what they're talking about, or no?
Divisional points? I don't know exactly. I guess it's the point system.
Yeah, and which I think Zan had said to me it meant nothing, essentially. But like, you can't penalize a team for losing their coach. Especially, and I thought I heard you guys when I listened to FP5, like how I think it was Will who said like the whole coaching calendar is completely insane and messed up.
I mean, yeah, everybody's saying that. I mean, that's the issue. I mean, now I'm not going to say that to to try and take away responsibility from Lane Kiffin. I mean, a lot of other coaches could have done the same thing.
No,
but
I
they
agree with you totally.
But they have actual integrity, and Lane Kiffin doesn't. He's just an asshole.
First of all, Lane Kiffin will go anywhere that makes him look better, not the kids. Now, I want to say one thing, and you might disagree with me. First of all, kids, same thing as coaches. The athletes go wherever they want the coach. They could give two craps about the education or walking around on campus or doing all this nonsense stuff. That's why they go in the transfer portal more. They're going to follow Lane Kiffin if they want Lane Kiffin.
Yeah, I think some of them will. I think some of them will. I mean, it's not like Ole Miss is known for their amazing educational program.
I saw where you were going with that.
I mean, it's not exactly Notre Dame or Villanova.
No.
In fact, LSU is probably a better school than Ole Miss. I would venture to guess it's probably a better
say that's better, but
educationally than Ole Miss is. I would venture to guess.
I mean, to be honest, I'm much more into the college football scene now than I was a few years ago, but I think this is Ohio State's title to win, essentially. I think.
Well, no. It's theirs to lose.
You know what I meant. Yeah.
It's theirs to lose. I mean, I think Ohio State's the best team in the country.
I just don't.
So let me just make a final point, about Notre Dame versus Miami. For everybody saying that because here's the argument. The argument is they both have the same record, and Miami has the head-to-head. And the way I will say it is, and I know you hate this, but it's just obviously true, is that records are not all equal. 10-2 is not 10-2 is not 10-2 is not 10-2. Vanderbilt is 14. They're not in the same conversation as Oklahoma at number 8. All those teams are 10-2. Vanderbilt's not in the same conversation as Alabama. All those teams have the same record. So that records in and of themselves don't necessarily matter. Just because two teams have the same record mathematically doesn't mean they have the same record in terms of value or the same resume. Now, for everybody saying that Notre Dame can't be ranked ahead of Miami because they have the same record and Miami has the head-to-head, well, ask yourself this question. Why is Oklahoma ranked ahead of Texas? And the reason Oklahoma is ranked ahead of Texas is not because Texas is 9-3 and Oklahoma is 10-2. It's for the same exact reason. It's because Oklahoma has a better resume than Texas. And let's not forget, Texas won by a much bigger margin on a neutral site more recently than Miami beat Notre Dame by a field goal in their own stadium, literally in August. So if that can happen, it's literally the exact same reason. And before you say, well, Texas is 9-3 and Oklahoma is 10-2, so let me ask you this scenario. What if Texas, instead of playing Ohio State, had decided to play Rice or Mercer or some joke non-conference game? Then they would have the same record. Then Texas and Oklahoma would have the same record. In that scenario, should Texas then be ranked ahead of Oklahoma and consequently also Alabama because they have the exact same record and they have the head-to-head? If that's your argument, well, now what you're saying is you should punt. Texas should be penalized for losing a game to Ohio State that they scheduled. So just think about what you're advocating here. If your argument is same record and head-to-head, the team that has the head-to-head has to be ranked ahead of them. That's what you're arguing. And let me be clear about this. The reason the reason Oklahoma is ranked ahead of Texas is not because of record. It's because of resume. That's the reason why. It's not because Texas is 9-3 and Oklahoma is 10-2. That's not the reason. It's
that's ridiculous, right?
Loss. In fact, it's the same reason. Texas has a bad loss against Florida. Texas almost lost to Mississippi and Kentucky. Okay. That's the reason why. It's not because the committee said they're 9-3 and they're 10-2. It's literally for the same reason.
Yeah, but that's ridiculous, right? Because now we're nitpicking losses. Like, that's literally what the committee is doing.
Losses are not all equal. I mean, I'm sorry, but Texas losing to Florida is a bad loss. That is a bad loss. That is a lot worse than Georgia losing to Alabama. The committee shouldn't view those things.
Okay, so you lost. it should just count as a loss. It shouldn't matter
No.
who it's against.
But it really should, though, because you don't think Texas losing to Florida is a little worse than Georgia losing to Alabama? I mean, Alabama, like those two teams are not.
I don't think of it that way, to be honest. If you lose,
because you're a New York fan and you're too much.
No.
You're obsessed
Hold
with
on.
professional sports. So
Hey, whoa, hold on. What I'm saying, let's be careful with that. My point, what I'm saying is.
No. I mean, like, you're a typical New York sports fan. Like, you're a professional sports fan.
No, but I pay attention to the college much more.
You do. I don't disagree.
But my point is, a loss should just be a loss. Like, we're being very nitpicky of what counts as which loss is worse than this loss. The way it should be is, okay, you play number one, each conference should make the schedules for their conference teams. That's the way I see it. That way there's no controversy involved.
Well, they do. Each conference does create the schedule. Well, you don't control your conference schedule.
No, but I'm saying the conference should just make the schedule within conference until the CFP. That way there's no way it can be fluked in any way whatsoever.
Well, that's how they do it, though.
Then why are we getting crappy teams like where they're
just not, it's random. Like they don't like.
No, not that. I'm saying the pay for games, what I call the clown show games, which no one that the big schools pay $750,000 to this school. And first of all, doesn't that go against the system? Because if you beat that team by 70, that doesn't help you.
No, but here's the question. Here's the point, though. The committee did not create that situation. The committee didn't make that up. The committee is living within that system. So if you put yourselves in the shoes of the committee, you are living within that system, within the current system. The committee can't change that. So you have to live within that and work with that. You can't change. You can criticize. Like, here's the point that I'm making. You're advocating. Here's the problem with what you're saying, which I just want to hear what you have to say about it. You don't like the pay-for-play games.
I hate them.
You hate them. Okay. But you're also saying that a loss should just be a loss and a win should just be a win.
Correct.
Under the current scenario, if the committee had that attitude, you'd be incentivizing these pay-for-play games.
No, it wouldn't, because
Yes, you would.
if the conferences and also the NCAA stepped in and said, hey, you can only play games within your conference, that wouldn't happen.
No. But what I'm saying is that the committee doesn't have that power.
Why not?
The committee is not the committee
Well,
are just ranking the teams. They don't have the power of banning. No. But the point I'm making is the system that you're advocating, the committee can't create that. The committee can only rank the teams. The committee has no power.
No. I'm not talking about the committee. I'm talking about the conference, and I'm talking about the NCAA, where they step in and they say, look, stop with these stupid pay-for-play games.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. But here's what I'm saying is, all I'm asking you is put yourselves in the committee's shoes. What would you want them to do about that? Because if you are the committee, you have to just work within that system, is the point that I'm making.
Well, the last thing I'll say, because I want to make sure we get to this last story, is the Alabama situation, which I saw a lot of people on social media, and you can probably understand it better than me, but people were saying like, oh, Alabama was moved up a few spots so that when they would lose, it would keep them in the CFP. I don't know if that's true. You would know the answer to that better than me.
They won't. They won't get left out.
Right, but is that true that they moved them up a few spots just to ensure a spot in the CFP?
I don't remember. I have to look at the rankings. I mean,
they're 9. They're 9 right now.
I think they should be ranked 10.
Okay, so Notre Dame.
I think that, and I think they should have been ranked 10 going into this week. I'm not just saying that because they lost. I think that Notre Dame and Oklahoma. I mean, Oklahoma is ranked ahead of them. I think Notre Dame should be ranked 2 spots ahead. My only criticism of Notre Dame is that they're not that they're ranked a few spots too low. I think Alabama should be ranked at 10. My issue with Alabama is, and it really is just a recency bias. Alabama has not played good football in the past.
No, they haven't. Not at all.
They have not played well. I mean, they struggled against South Carolina. They struggled against Auburn. In fairness, they always struggle in that game. That's a rivalry game. But they did lose to Oklahoma, and they haven't looked, and they just got blown out in this game. They haven't looked good. Oklahoma, I'm not so sure about them either. I mean, they were also fortunate to beat LSU. Very fortunate to win that game. So I don't even have a whole lot of faith in Oklahoma either. I think Notre Dame, Notre Dame, I think is better than both of those teams.
The one final thing I'll say, and the team I've been watching a lot this year because I thought they were fascinating to watch, BYU, who was undefeated until they got blown out today. But
so if I were to, and when I gave you my 12 teams, and like I said, I know it's not the current system with automatic bids, but if we're just going to have a 12-team playoff, pick the top 12 teams. I gave you my 12, and I said BYU is right. I would take Texas at the 12 spot over BYU.
I just think they've had a really good season.
Yeah, I would take Texas at the 12 spot over BYU. And even with the group of 5 automatic bid, whatever, the group of 5 auto bid, Texas would have been the team that I left out. But
that system is so stupid. I can't.
The group of 5 thing is ridiculous. We have the committee for a reason. Having a
Let
team
them pick the teams.
Right. Pick the 12 best teams. That's just how it should be. And look, I'm not against a group of 5 team getting in if they're good enough. People talk about college basketball. College basketball group of 5 teams get in, but they earn it. That's the
Correct.
difference. They win their conference or they get in because the committee deems they're good enough, and it's in a pool of 68 teams. It's way different. In college football, we shouldn't have a group of 5 team get in just for being a group of 5 team, and we need to fill some type of quota. I think that's ridiculous. So when I would take Texas over BYU as my 12th spot. And here's why. Texas has more ups and downs on their resume than BYU does. They have a bad loss against Florida, and to BYU's credit, they have no bad losses. They each have gotten blown out by the best team in their conference. BYU got blown out by Texas Tech. I'm not even talking about this game, but in the regular season. I don't care about them losing in the conference championship. Just like Texas kind of got blown out by Georgia. However, Texas has 2 great wins against Oklahoma and Texas A&M, and they beat Oklahoma by quite a big margin. And Texas A&M, that game just happened. And at the time, A&M was like the 3rd best. I mean, they're the 7th ranked team in the country. BYU doesn't have any really good wins outside of Utah, which, by the way, Texas' win against Vanderbilt is arguably better than BYU's win against Utah. So in the wins department, the only thing I will say is that Texas does have 2 really, really close calls against Mississippi State and Kentucky, but they did win both those games. So what matters is that they won.
But see,
so the way I see it is that all else being equal,
right?
All else being equal, which I don't even really think it's equal because it's 2 really good wins and 1 bad loss versus no good wins and no bad losses. So, but all else being equal, say I have a team I take the wins, the good wins and bad losses over neither. So in other words, let's say 2 teams' resumes are very equal. One team has 2 wins, 2 great wins and 2 bad losses. Another team has no good wins and no bad losses. I would rather take the team with 2 great wins and 2 bad losses over the team with, I'd rather err on the side of wins, in other words. Which is how I feel in this scenario, especially when BYU was not even competitive against Texas Tech. They were hardly tested the entire year. And in fairness to Texas, BYU's had some close calls. They needed to come back in the 4th quarter to beat freaking Colorado. Colorado sucks. So I just don't have a lot of faith in BYU. I think they're overrated. I think their non-conference schedule was a joke. The best team they played was Stanford. Stanford hasn't been good since I was in college. It's a freaking joke. I was not even able to legally drink the last time Stanford was actually a respectable team. So I don't. Might be embellishing that a little, but
I just saw a video from Heather Dinage, who's one of the top at ESPN. What did she say here? Heather Dinage knows the committee more than anyone feels like Alabama and Notre Dame are going to flip again, putting Notre Dame back at 9 and putting Alabama at 10, knocking out Miami and BYU. Interesting. Well, all right. Should we get to the other story? Because that's the one.
Yes. So Craig Carton heading back to WFAN in what is the least shocking news ever.
3rd time.
Yeah, for the 3rd time or second time.
3rd. No, 3rd. Because remember, he was there originally for like 10 plus years. Then he got arrested. Then he came back. Then he left for Fox to be on TV.
No, you're right. His 3rd time his second time coming back.
Second time back. But yeah.
His 3rd stint at WFAN because the Fox Sports show got canceled. He's going to be doing not middays, afternoons.
2 to 7 Eastern.
2 to 7. So I guess I'm going to be listening to WFAN consistently again. Because I think Craig Carton is great on the radio.
I heard.
I will say, as a national host, as a national
he's
TV
terrible.
host, and as a national podcaster, he is brutal. I got to tell you, I love Craig Carton, but he was brutal on those. I mean, like uh, my thing is, as a podcast host, and as a TV personality, he turned into like a hot take artist, and I'm fine with being a hot take artist. The problem, if you're just like me, I'm naturally a contrarian. I think people get things wrong a lot. The problem with his hot takes is that they're really, really unintelligent. Like
God, yeah,
they're really bad takes, like brutally bad.
Like,
I just
I have to scratch my hair out sometimes when he says certain
But
things. Like,
people talk about Mad Dog and Skip Bayless. It's like no.
No.
These takes are so much worse.
Craig
They are so much
Craig
worse.
is like, if you think Skip Bayless is off the beaten path, Craig Carton is like
Craig
beyond.
Carton is way worse with his takes,
And-
and I couldn't
but-
really ignore it anymore with his takes. But he wasn't like that on WFAN. He wasn't like that with Evan Roberts, and he certainly wasn't like that with Boomer. I think he's best as a New York radio personality.
Well, he's a New York guy. That's where he he was at WNEW way back in the day with the good guys, they used to call it. This is way before. This is talking like old radio.
Yeah.
Then obviously gets the job with FAN. Boomer and Carton was the most successful morning sports radio show in the country.
Probably ever,
Ever.
other than maybe Kirk and Callahan.
Oh, no.
If you want to call that a sports show.
Yeah, Boomer and Carton was probably the most successful show in sports talk, period, besides Mike and the Mad Dog. But
but as a morning show.
But looking at the business aspect of this, so WFN is going through a lineup change for the third time in about a year.
Keith McPherson.
Well, McPherson left. I think the writing was on the wall.
Was interesting. I guess the funny thing, the question I would have about Keith McPherson is, like, how does he make money?
He's a digital guy. He's done it before.
He must have multiple streams of income, and I'm not saying that in the sense that like, oh, he's going to be broke. I'm just curious how else he made his money other than doing.
But like I said, so he used to be at John Boy Media. That's where he was bound by Odyssey executives for WFAN. But 7 to 12, 7 to midnight is tough.
When you have a family, it is actually a lot tougher than
he's got a young child, like very young child.
He has a young child. I think his kid is like probably younger than 5 years old.
Yeah, like 4 or 5 years old, I think.
Which, if you have a family, that's tough because I've worked 3 to 11 shifts before, and I've
worked 11 to 6.
Right, and in some ways, it's worse than working overnights, actually, because if you have a family, you never see your family if you work those hours.
Side of the late night shift, 7 to midnight, because
so if he works till midnight, he goes like he. I don't know how old his son is exactly. I'm guessing he's in school now. He is in school because he's
probably in kindergarten, Well,
he might be. His son is very young, is what I know.
Yeah.
So in that scenario, like working those hours, he might like never see his.
Doesn't see his wife either. Like it's.
I don't know what that situation is like. I don't know if his wife has a job or not, but
she does.
He might not really see his wife. I mean, most people nowadays, both parents work because it's impossible.
Oh no, trust me, I get that.
Support a family on one single income.
But 7 to midnight is probably the most brutal shift.
But it's not 7 to midnight. He has to get there early. I don't know exactly how it works. He probably works 4, maybe 5 o'clock until
for talk show talent. I would say it's about an hour and a half before shift time, probably ish.
Yeah, because from my experience working on talk shows, like the host often sends an email with a bunch of topics, and then sometimes they don't get there until they might not get there till the show's about to start.
I'll give you an example. When I worked on a syndicated program back when I was at ABC, my host, we had a 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. Eastern syndicated show that was heard on 300 stations. He showed up at 4 p.m. 4 p.m. Yeah. But I have to throw one caveat in there, which is because a lot of the interviews that were done some of them were around the world. We had to fit the time zones of certain countries to get the interviews done, but he would have showed up early anyway. That's just how he is. He's a massive prepper. So he would show up at 4 for a 9 p.m. Eastern time show, which
Colin Cowherd's like that too. Massive prepper. Really just wants
he would show 3 hours before a show, I think, sometimes. But
that is typically how it works. I mean, with every show is different. Like I can imagine Boomer and Gio, for instance, they don't do a lot of prep. They don't do much prep because their conversation flows very well. When I do shows with you, I don't do any prep. Like I send you 3 different topics or whatever, and we go on for 4 hours.
But here's the weird thing about this whole thing. So it kind of broke out over like Barrett Sports Media had it, Andrew Marchand had it. Like they had it before the people on air had it, which I still don't get how that happens, where they're breaking news before like the actual talents do. But so that breaks. Carton's coming back, and they're taking McGonigal from Overnights. He's the leading guy to be the co-host with Craig.
Yeah, that was a weird pick. I think it's because their personalities.
Well, there was rumor that Carton and Roberts was possibly going to come back.
I think Evan said no.
Well, I'm talking about before that had come out, that they were saying, "Oh, are Carton and Roberts going to get back together?" That show was very successful, by the way, in Afternoon Drive. But I think they just didn't want to go down that line, and I think Evan's happier with Tiki probably at this point. But Evan's going back to his roots. He's going 10 to 2. 10 a.m. to 2.
But here's the question. What happens to BT and Sal?
They're gone.
Are they getting, they're gone from the station?
Well, the show's going to be gone at the end of the year.
It doesn't mean that they're going to be gone. It doesn't mean Sal.
My guess is I think Sal's going to end up back in the 7 slot. I'm going to take a guess. That's where, I don't know about BT. I think BT might be out of luck. He does St. John's for ESPN New York. Obviously, that's not enough to be sustainable, but unless they move BT and Sal to the 7 to midnight.
Which I guess they could do.
Or maybe BT and Sal pick up the show and go to ESPN New York. Go there.
Yeah, I think I could see that happening too. They go to ESPN New York. I don't know exactly how that works. I mean, the thing is that I'm sure their contracts are all guaranteed. So it's not like they probably have contracts that are guaranteed and are going to, and they're going to be, and WFAN has to pay them the money unless they fire them for cause.
Well, Evan's going to be one of the more expensive midday guys, probably in the history of radio.
Yeah, so I'm guessing, I don't think they're actually getting screwed as badly as you might think. They're going to be getting paid money. I think it's going to be like the Max Kellerman situation, where
unless their deals are up at the end of the year, we don't know that. But
right. Well, in that case, then they were never guaranteed it in the first place.
Right. The other weird scenario that's going on, and I don't know if you saw this, and it has to do with Odyssey and gambling content. Infinity Sports Network is ending at the end of the year.
Yeah, I heard about that.
And so every show, Maggie and Perloff, over some of the other shows, JR was another one, JR Sport Brief. That's not his real name, by the way. Bart Winkler at night.
I watched JR Sport Brief since I was 12 or 13 years old.
You know, that was the show I was training on when I went to Infinity Sports Network.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but they were expecting me to take the calls, run the board, and book the guests, and do everything in one. And I'm like, no. But what was the other show? And I can't remember the other guy's name. Gelb, Zach Gelb, who has been in New York radio forever, but syndicated.
He's Bob Gelb's son, I think, right?
Correct. Yes. And so what they're doing is they're taking BetMGM Network, which used to be BetQL.
Yeah.
And they're changing Infinity Sports Network to be called Westwood One Sports. And that's going to be the new sports network.
Interesting.
And the guy that they have doing the mornings is the Savannah Bananas play-by-play guy. You can't make that one up either. But the rest is gambling. It's all gambling now. Figure that one out.
That's good for me.
Well, you would love it.
I'm going to thrive. I thrive in the sports media environment talking about gambling.
I don't know, but WFAN, who knows if this is going to work? This is the third time they've changed it in a year.
So yeah, but I'm really just more interested in what they're going to do with the WFAN lineup. And I do kind of feel bad for BT and Sal. Although, like I said, I can see Sal basically going back to doing Keith McPherson's.
People don't like Sal though for some reason.
Every host.
I like Sal.
People hated Keith McPherson until he left, and people were saying nice things.
That's what he said on that stream he did.
But it's so true though. And people only said bad things about him when he was on, and then when he left, the comments were all positive. It's ridiculous.
Well, that's what they all do after someone leaves. Oh, we miss you.
Yeah, only after somebody leaves does that happen.
I don't know if this is going to work, to be honest, though. But Boomer and Gio is really the only thing that works there currently, and people are mad at that.
Well, I don't say it's the only one that works.
But people say I think people get mad at Boomer and Gio though because it's a bunch of bullshit, man talk. It's no longer.
You know what though? people get mad about it. It's also what people like because it's what works with ratings. I mean, proof of this is what they're doing with Craig Carton and BT and Sal. BT and Sal, I called into their show twice or 2 or 3 times, and I got on 2 times. I got on both times.
That show is very call heavy, by the way.
It's very call heavy. All the midday shows are call heavy, just like Joe and Evan were.
Oh
But
my
it's
God,
also very it's very baseball centric.
Yes.
And it's very analytics centric.
Oh my God, BT.
So they'll spend an hour breaking down the
fastball mile.
It'd be something like the velocity of a pitcher's fastball, or
Boomer
the batted ball rate of a team or of a hitter or something like that. And a lot of the things that I had to look into when I worked at the MLB that I did as a job, I didn't want to do it. They're just nerds about it.
Oh, the nerds.
I think it's kind of funny. But it does prove that the straight sports talk doesn't work as well as the Boomer and Gio or Boomer and Carton or Dennis and Callahan format. It just doesn't.
But let me ask you, because Infinity Sports Network is becoming much more one sports, and basically, except for the 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. syndicated morning show, which I don't know what the hell it's going to be with the Savannah Bananas play-by-play announcer being the solo host, by the way. I forgot to point that out, too.
Yeah.
Are you really going to listen to gambling content from 9 a.m. to midnight?
Well, nobody's going to listen to sports content from 9 a.m. to midnight either, regular sports content either.
No.
I mean, the point is, it's different people tuning in at different times.
I don't know. I feel like there's almost too many gambling networks, though, now. You have VSiN, which I kind of like some of their stuff. You have Sports Grid, which is another one. And now you're going to have BetMGM taking over Westwood One Sports. I don't know. There's too many choices. And then my favorite is when someone says they're a gambling expert when they have no idea who's going to win.
Yeah.
That one makes me laugh. I don't know if you ever had a notion on that. When people say they're gambling experts.
You can know a lot about gambling. In fairness, I think you can be a better some people can be better gamblers than others. I mean, if you listen to me and Liam, if you listen to my picks and Liam's picks on unnecessary wagers, you'd be winning money. I think more if you listen to him than if you listen to me.
I would say you're more knowledgeable about odds.
But nobody's that good of a gambler. I couldn't quit my job and become a full-time gambler.
Oh, no. I'm talking about on Sports Grid and on VSiN. No, I laugh because they're listen to our gambling experts give you the winning picks. Excuse me? Winning picks? You don't know if a team's going to win. Now, when you look at odds and you look at the books, you could figure out who's going to win or close to who's going to win. But I laugh when they say, "Oh, we're going to give you the winners now."
Yeah,
you can't give me a winner because you don't know.
Yeah. All right, that's our show. I have to get going.
One more show, by the way.
One more leftovers. We'll be back next Sunday.
Yes.
See you guys then.
See you guys.